question, Massimo.
Sure, Alvin.
So going back to Ayesha's video, and when she mentioned the elections a couple years ago,
I remember watching on TV that election, and I've kept quiet about this since 2016, but I watched, and the frequency that came through the television, it was bad enough just it was coming through the air, but even through the television, it was nauseating. It was bone chilling. It was almost like it made your bone marrow want to throw up. It was the most horrible frequency I had ever felt.
Can we kind of like anticipate or like assume it's going to be like that this year? Do you think?
I mean, personally, I would assume that they're going to make sure Trump wins.
Right. That's what I think too.
Yeah. Right now, they need a hero within the government. So imagine, you have the Thothian Anunnaki who invaded the United States 300 years ago so they can secure the Sarasota Stargate in Florida, and they wanted to make the United States the military capital of the world in the future, right? This is why they invaded the United States to begin with. They wanted to make the United States the military capital. They wanted to make London the financial capital, and they wanted to make the Vatican the religious capital of the world in the future. This was why it was set up this way. So once we understand this, what have the Thothian Anunnaki done within the U.S. government for the last 300 years? They have completely abused it, right? Now we're at a point right now where the people are completely aware of the Hillarys, what they do.
That's the problem.
Here's the problem.
And
Bill Clinton is a rapist. Infowars.com.
You got the people of London going to the Buckingham Palace, calling them pedophiles, right? So people. Right? So people are not having it anymore, right? So there needs to be a hero created that appears to be going against the establishment. That's the only logical move that the establishment has.
You say the establishment is against you. Why do you say that?
Well, I think the establishment actually is against me, but really coming online.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt, and when I say corrupt, I'm talking about totally corrupt, political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
They need to create a Trump, okay? And if we can understand this, and this is why the whole Save the Children thing is going on. It's being allowed to happen. You think the feds are going to go raid places where they have human trafficking and child trafficking if it wasn't allowed to be? They're being told go get these places because they want this to be visibly seen as though Trump is behind it. Okay, this is the best time to tug on the heartstrings of the angelic human populace, and they use children to do it. They've done this before to us in other cycles that we completely forgot, like Atlantis. You guys don't think we've been through something like this similar to Atlantis during that cycle? We're just reliving it now. We just forgot that this happened before, right? So this is a game that they've been playing on us. And they know this because what happens to us? We die and we get our memories erased and we're recycled.
What I am about to tell you and show you is probably the most astounding thing that you may have ever been told in your entire life. Initially, I expect that very few will believe it or even try to consider it. It will sound too outlandish or over the top for most people. But whatever you do with this information, whether you believe it or not, at least for myself, know that after looking at the accumulation of data collected at Farsight over a great many years, I am certain it is true. A picture has gradually emerged that seems as undeniable as it is astounding. Earth has long been a planet that has been operated as a prison, and I mean this literally, not as a metaphor for something else. People who live here were mostly dumped here from somewhere else, from other planets on other star systems within our own galaxy, and possibly some star systems in other nearby galaxies. They get dumped here by being born here. They lose all their memories of who they were in the past, where they came from, who their families are and were, and they don't remember the property that they owned that was taken from them.
He does not know who he is, who he was. This dude is lost. Like, he started to calm down and remember stuff, but then when that electricity happened, it's like it tossed him out.
Everyone is processed in a way that erases all such memories. And the key to running this prison has always been from the beginning to suppress all knowledge of every prisoner's past.
And it doesn't feel like he remembers who he was or who he used to be. It feels like a blank slate now, like there's no substance to him.
And when people die on Earth, a technique was established to involuntarily recycle them back into another life on this planet, memory-free, so that they could never leave. Dying offers no escape from this place.
I sense numbness and booming sounds and lots of roaring, like an explosion happened.
Well, the Illuminati actually get to incarnate into that same bloodline, that 9, 10, 11 strand DNA bloodline, and they hold memory of their past incarnations. And they have techniques to help them remember their other past lifetimes where they were Illuminati.
And what you're looking at here, staggeringly, is a group of people, some of the most famous people in America, in long gowns. Behind them there, you see a 40-foot stone owl. And there's the fire between them, next to the lake at Bohemian Grove. Now, one might wonder, understandably, why the people that run the banking, political, economic system and the media in America should be dressed in long robes doing a ceremony to a 40-foot stone owl. I think we should be told.
You see, they have techniques, so that they're actually raised with their own form of spirituality. They're connected to their higher selves, you see, and they're raised that way, guys. And us, though, we kind of fumble around and we finally find ourselves, you know what I mean, in the dark. That's how our awakening goes. But I said that to say this, Alma, that whoever wins, it's because that's who they picked to win. This is always how it's been. There has to be a big show that takes place visibly so it can actually appear real. This is acting. We have Trump. We have Trump and we have Pompeo caught on video when they announced the COVID epidemic. You have Pompeo.
What's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
You have Mike Pompeo saying that this is a live exercise. This is a live military exercise. And then you have Trump in his ear saying, you should have let us know. You should have let us know.
We're in a live exercise here to get this right. We're in a live exercise here to get this right.
A live exercise pertaining to COVID-19. Do you know what a live exercise is? It's a military exercise. They never dreamed that the world and the public was going to fall for it to the extent they did. Even Trump, if you listen, whispers over to him, you should have let us know. You should have let us know.
We're in a live exercise here to get this right.
It's caught on video. No one wants to ask these people why this footage exists. This footage should not exist if this was real. Are you telling me that you're going to ignore this video? You're going to ignore the fact that Trump signed the COVID relief bill before COVID was even mentioned in the news? Come on. Now he's your savior and he's saving the children. Give me a break.
I watched that video and somebody had like a full-on description of the website that you go. It's a government website and it had the process, and COVID was, I think, the beginning of the bill, the stimulus thing.
Yeah.
I think it dated back to January 2019. And so like you go on there and then it gives you the updates, like how it was sent to Congress, and then Congress did their thing and they approved it and blah, blah, blah. But this was like over a freaking year ago. So, I mean, that alone tells you that it's a lot of crap.
When was the CARES, or Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, written? You would think that it was written after the so-called pandemic. Well, let me show you something real quick. This is from the Associated Press. This video right here is from March 27th, 2020, where it says Trump signs $2.2 trillion stimulus package. And we're going to see that this stimulus package is H.R. 748, the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Watch this.
Well, thank you all very much. It's a very important day. I'll sign the single biggest economic relief package in American history, and I must...
So it's the single biggest economic relief package in American history. And you would think that would be as a response to, it's written as a response to, after the certain pandemic has taken place.
Say, or any other package, by the way. It's twice as large as any relief ever signed. It's $2.2 billion, but it actually goes up to $6.2 potentially trillion dollars.
Okay, so you see he made the mistake of billion to trillion there. Now this is whitehouse.gov. This is the actual transcription of everything that we're going to hear Trump say. I'm not going to play this entire thing, but I'm going to show you this mistake. But it actually goes up to 6.2 potentially billion trillion dollars. So that's everything that he says. And I want to show you this right here real quick. But I want to thank Republicans and Democrats. This is what Trump says in this video right here, dated March 27th, which corresponds with this at whitehouse.gov, remarks by President Trump at the signing of H.R. 748. Remember that. That's going to be very important here in a second. Signed when? March 27th. That corresponds with this date of this upload by the Associated Press, March 27th. And the reason I'm making a big deal out of this is because we're talking about H.R. 748. We are not talking about another bill. Trump did not sign another bill. He signed H.R. 748. That's going to be real important in about a minute. So he says this: I want to thank Republicans and Democrats for coming together, setting aside their differences, and putting America first. You don't put America first when you sign a $6.2 trillion corporate / banker bailout, which is exactly what this is. This is not a stimulus for the American people. This is a corporate / banker bailout. But when was this bill introduced? When was it written? It had to be after the pandemic came along, right? Because this is a natural response to what happens after the fact, right? Watch this. World Health Organization says a pneumonia of unknown cause detected in Wuhan, China was first reported when? To the World Health Organization country office in China on 31 December 2019. All right? When was it declared a public emergency? The outbreak was declared a public health emergency of international concern on 30 January 2020. So when was H.R. 748 introduced to Congress? You would think it would be after January 30th, 2020, right? I mean, it'd be ludicrous to come up with a Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act before coronavirus was ever on the scene, right? This is from congress.gov. You can look this up for yourself. Everything that I'm talking about in this video, I'm going to put all the links in the description and in the pinned comment so you can look this up for yourself and share it with your family and friends who've been deceived by what we're seeing today. Check this out. H.R. 748, going back to whitehouse.gov. H.R. 748, the CARES Act. What does CARES stand for? Look at this. Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act. H.R. 748, he signs H.R. 748. He signs it on March 27th, 2020. When was it introduced? Oh, check this out. Introduced 1/24/2019. A full year, a year and 2 months before he sits down at this desk and signs it during a plandemic. Why do we call it a plandemic? Because look, they already had this in the works, guys, on 1/24/2019. Let me show you something else. If you click a link right here on congress.gov, it takes you to this page right here so you can see the movement through Congress all the way to the very end where it becomes a law. When was it introduced? 1/24/2019, introduced into the House, and you can track its movement on the 24th, 2019, 5/21/2019, 7/17/2019. This is into July, and then the cutoff at 7/22/2019. Read the second time. Oh, now we're into the pandemic phase. They introduced the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, before coronavirus was even spoken of, before most Americans even ever heard of Wuhan, China. The fingerprints of governmental planning is all over this thing. And then you consider the Rockefeller document, Lockstep, which is found in this document called Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development on page 18. Lockstep is a world of tighter top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback, where they talk about the pandemic blanketing the planet. Please share this video with everybody you know. The CARES Act was written 1 year before coronavirus arrived on the scene. They knew what they were going to do before they let you know what they were going to do. Before I go, ask yourself this question. Why is nobody in corporate media talking about this? They have billions of dollars in resources to be able to do this research, and anybody can find it anywhere on the internet, but they're silent about it. Why? The answer is because they're complicit. They're accomplices in this crime. And that's exactly what it is. A crime that's been foisted not only on America, but on the entire world on behalf of the Federal Reserve and the IMF International Banking Cartel.
They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shots.
Right. Yeah. So you can actually go to their website and see the progression of this bill over a year.
Yeah.
COVID came around, and come on, that alone right there, that's a close case right there. Any court of law would be like, okay, close case, right? They have committed a criminal act. That should be it. We don't even need any other proof. But this is being allowed to continue, and people are to understand that this is what's happening. And you know who's behind this? The U.S. military.
Oh, for sure.
U.S. military is on top. It's the head of the beast. You cut off the head of the beast, these people like the Gates Foundation and Amazon and the CIA, they're not going to know what to do or how to react. They are going to be terrified of the people.
A group of scientists say we are closer than ever to creating technology which can merge with human biology in order to access the cloud in real time.
And they mentioned something called deep learning, where the CIA is getting technology from Amazon.
The company has signed a $600 million deal with the CIA, and Daily Finance reports it doesn't have anything to do with buying books.
Amazon will help the agency build a private cloud infrastructure to keep up with emerging technologies.
This deal would be a game changer for both the CIA and Amazon. Bloomberg reports the pairing would innovate new uses for cloud technology.
This level of technology could include brain-to-brain interfaces, brain-to-computer interfaces, and specifically brain-to-cloud interfaces.
But it's the U.S. military that actually is in control. Right now, they've gotten to a place to where they are so laid back about everything. Why? Because we all have smart dust in us.
Note, this has not been directly addressed, nor has it been entertained by any United States government entity in a public forum. What has gone from the drawing board to the reality is this: the use of neural interfacing and physiological interfacing through the idea of remote-controlled small-scale systems to create a nanoswarm of biopenetrable materials that you cannot see, that can penetrate all but the most robust biochemical filters, that are able to integrate themselves through a variety of membranes, mucous membranes, and wherever, mouth, nose, ears, eyes, and they can be done in such a level that their presence is almost impossible to detect, and as such the attribution becomes exceedingly difficult to demonstrate. The idea here is to put minimal-sized electrodes in a network within a brain through only minimal intervention to be able to read and write into the brain function in real time, remotely. Take a look. This is the front of my pen. This amount of nanomaterial, if be able to maintain and sustain with regard to its deliverability and aerosolization, could in fact affect all of you.
The nanotechnology and the biotechnology filters down from the hydrosphere into the water supply and the food chain. And now every American, all 318 million Americans are infected.
See, nanocells are real small, 1,000 times smaller than these dust particulates. You inhale it, they go to work, replicating, spreading like a virus, multiplying in exponentials. 6 months' time, I could have 100 million people converted, ditch diggers, porn stars, and presidents. Not one would be the wiser. 100 million people will buy what I want them to buy and do pretty much damn well anything I figure they ought to do.
Anything. They've been spraying dust for 20 years. That means that it only takes, what is smart dust? Smart dust is what the TIs are actually experiencing. The 400,000 targeted individual cases that we have in the United States, these are people activated smart dust. They're trying to turn all 7 billion of us into them, these 400,000 cases.
I'm scared. My voices keep telling me that everyone's gonna kill me. They keep saying how my mom's gonna kill me. They keep saying how everyone is gonna kill me. Everyone's gonna kill me. Everyone's gonna kill me. I don't feel safe. My mom is supposed to come right now, but they say when she gets here she's gonna stab me. She's not gonna stab me. Shut up. You're not right.
Hyperreality is an inability of consciousness to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality. What is real and what is fiction are blended together so that there is no clear distinction between where one ends and the other begins. It allows the co-mingling of physical reality with virtual reality and human intelligence with artificial intelligence. Targeted individuals find themselves thrust into this new reality against their will and without their permission. They are non-consensual test subjects for a mind control weapons platform that is currently being rolled out throughout the world.
The second group of materials found in these environmental samples is unidentifiable fibers. And I really want you to appreciate the meaning of unidentifiable. These fibers have been sent to sophisticated laboratories and there is nothing in the databases that match them. So these are fibers, we could say, that do not exist in nature. People around the world are developing lesions on their skin that ooze and produce fibers. This is known as Morgellons syndrome. Tissue samples cultured from ordinary people without this ailment contain and grow the very same fibers. Here's a 5-inch lesion on a woman's body that has never healed. 5 inches.
DNA. And this has been done by Morgellons and the 3-strand DNA, and this is going to be hooked up to the 3-strand DNA computers they are building. Morgellons is essentially a bioelectrical magnetic organism that functions according to certain electromagnetic fields. And when you look at how it responds to certain magnetic fields, and there's people that have done tests on Morgellons and seen, then you can start to begin to understand why we are subject to so many of the electromagnetic fields that we're subject to.
As an insider with detailed information of this entire fucking program and how it works from top to bottom, I am privy to some details that most are not. And that is that the true way that this technology works is that a complete DNA profile is obtained from the target. And then this information, the DNA of the individual, is used to determine the resonant frequency of the DNA itself. The resonant frequency is then used to fine-tune the technology, the radio frequency signals, the microwave auditory effect, and all of the other aspects of the technology to tune it perfectly to the resonant frequency of the targeted individual's DNA.
This is Aaron Alexis, armed with a sawed-off shotgun.
Now that you know the details of this program and what these targeted individuals go through, I'd like to take a little deeper look at these shooters.
And today, the first official explanation of why.
Was a mentally unstable individual.
This shotgun is the primary murder weapon.
On it, he etched a number of carvings, which I believe forced the media to have to cover his claims of being targeted,
including end to the torment. Better off this way.
And he also wrote My ELF Weapon, ELF standing for extremely low frequencies. These are the types of frequencies that are being sadistically used against targeted individuals.
Alexis had been hearing voices and believed he was being bombarded by microwaves.
Alexis told police he believed that there were two men and a woman and that they were, quote, using a microwave machine to send vibrations through the ceiling, penetrating his body so he could not sleep, unquote. And he told police that he never felt anything like this, that he had no history of mental illness in his family. He felt the individuals would harm him.
The attack came without warning. As seen on this airport surveillance video, coming into view from the left, 26-year-old Esteban Santiago pulls out his pistol and opens fire. He killed 5 people. Now the question is why Santiago even had a gun, which had been taken away last November when he showed up at the FBI office in Alaska to claim he was hearing voices and was hospitalized for a mental examination.
The gun was taken away from him, but is given back after he was cleared.
Attorney Myron May's case was one that was particularly heartbreaking to me, as everyone who knew him personally confirmed his compassion, kindness, and sensitivity.
You sweet young man.
Not only did he send out 10 certified mail packages to major media outlets like Associated Press detailing the TI program and his affidavit of being tortured, he also released a 3-part YouTube video series stating similar info and telling his family members and friends goodbye.
And the biggest reason why I'm doing this is that, for me, I'm already here. I'm already a targeted individual. I've already been subjected to torture. But if this program can stop, then maybe, just maybe, other people won't have to be tortured psychologically and physically and financially and emotionally. Maybe.
Although brandishing a gun and shooting it a few times, he didn't actually kill anyone in the event at his alma mater's library, FSU, before being shot himself about 30 times. But his case brought up a detail that I wonder if every TI who acts out these shootings hears as well from these voices that taunt them. He was told by his voices if he would act out this shooting as per their demands, he would effectively be removed from the torturous program. Here's the Facebook post of his on a targeted individual page asking if anyone else had been promised freedom with the killing.
These 400,000 cases, right? So targeted individuals have activated smart dust. They can activate our smart dust by actually setting up their 5G grid.
Winning the race to be the world's leading provider of 5G cellular communications networks. It's all about 5G now. We were 4G and everybody was saying we have to get 4G. And then they said, before that, we have to get 3G, and now we have to get 5G, and 5G is a big deal, and that's going to be there for a while, and I guess at some point we'll be talking to you about number 6. What do you think? Do you think that's true, Asia?
The president tweeted out earlier today, I want 5G and even 6G technology in the U.S. as soon as possible. It is far more powerful, faster, and smarter than the current standard.
Recent work by Clifford Carnicom reveals that a filament culture subjected to a blue light frequency, that's 375 nanometers, resulted in explosive growth of the culture within 24 hours after the initial incubation. So he put the blue light on, incubated it for 5 to 7 days, and then it exploded into all those little fibers that you see. We now live in a frequency-filled world.
So there's
That's not true.
And is that for everyone on the planet or just in countries where you get chemtrails?
actually anywhere that is it's in the world, it's getting into the rivers, it's going into the waters, it's getting into our food. You know, the food that we're eating actually has nanobots in it.
Anything that the nanotech is in can be manipulated through this 5G system. And the nanotech is in everything. They spray the nanotech in the skies. They put nanotech in the food. Even with what we flush down through our drains in our own homes, it gets passed on down through the water system. So you see this in the food chain. And there's nanotech in the food that we're eating and nanotech in the stuff that we're washing down the drains. And of course it ends up in the river system, it ends up in the fish, it ends up in the algae, it ends up in everything.
And so I guess my question is about discernment. And, you know,
I feel like with both of those women, they feel, of course, that they're aligned with the light, and they're trying, of course, to light up others and be way showers for others. So is it like do you feel like they're hijacked as well and they're both Metatronic, or is it like they don't know that they are?
You know, these aren't bad people that they're using, guys. They're using well-meaning humans. I'll give you an example. Okay. You have the Christian missionaries, right? You see them and they're going to countries like Africa and stuff, and they're raising money to feed poor people in Africa and things like that. And it just looks so beautiful, right? Because visibly, outwardly, you can see that they're doing good on a physical level, right? But we know that Christianity is set up by extraterrestrial invaders. So is Islam, and so is Judaism. We know this, right? Well, what's going on here? These aren't bad people, but why are they being used like this, right? Okay, well, for someone who's awake like us, who understands that they're actually on a prison planet, those people that are running around feeding the world, they look like trustees. What do trustees do in a prison? Trustees are the ones that make sure that the prison is livable, that the people in the prison don't lose their freaking minds, and they can actually live in a wholesome way where they're clean and they have their showers and they don't have to pretty much eat where they crap, right? That's what trustees do in prison. So to an awake person, these well-meaning Christians that are feeding the people would look like trustees who are really supporting the prison colony, you see? And this is orchestrated by the wardens of the prison. Who are the wardens of the prison? The extraterrestrial invaders. Well, how are they able to perpetuate this? Through generational mass mind control, right? Now, these people are suffering from generational mass mind control, where they have been believing in religion. Their forefathers believed in religion. Their forefathers before them believed in religion. So they've been passing over this generational mass mind control. You see, they're not bad people. They're just being mind controlled. Mind control, it comes in many different forms here. There's another thing to take into consideration here too. The fact that we all have astral bodies, mental bodies, and emotional bodies. When we talk about our astral and mental bodies, what are we talking about? Our astral body exists in 4D, right? So the astral realm is 4D. The sun is actually the gate to 4D, right? So that's our astral realm. When we talk about the mental realm, we're talking about 5D. That's where the mental realm is. Now, we know that these places are in full fall status, right? Since they're in full fall status, well, we have extraterrestrials who are beaming holographic insert technology into the astral bodies and the mental body. They're messing with them because they're open to that. They've opened themselves up to that unknowingly. It doesn't make them bad people, you see? So now they're so open to that. Now they're getting transmissions. These are mind control transmissions that they're getting from 4D and 5D, right? They are unable to see the facts here. And the facts here is that Trump signed the COVID relief bill and everything else that's going on. I'm not going to get into it, but we know that Trump is part of the establishment. We also can definitively be sure of this because the speaker just announced it. The speaker just announced, you guys just saw, the Trump administration is fatally afflicted. They're dark flowering.
And the problems we are having right now, I mean, some people think that, like, make America great again, like, great idea. It depends. It's not about the figurehead that serves either side. It's about the agenda that's behind them. Half the time, the figureheads don't even know. If you have a group of dark flower people on either side, it can be the green dragon side or it can be the red-white dragon side, they'll have figureheads that are like the face of them, but they're actually representing a whole crew, and that's just like the front man in a band.
Here's thing I want everyone to understand, though, in terms of how they were able to possess the entire earth, because they have physical control. By law, they control certain parts of the earth that we don't understand that they control.
By law, you mean by law that we know, or by actual spiritual law?
No, by law that we know, by their own legalities. And this is what the IMF does. The IMF is the International Monetary Fund. Okay, they're Rothschild owned. So what the IMF does, and there are CIA agents who actually are trained to do this. They're called economic hitmen, is what they're called.
I stood in front of the Shah of Iran, the presidents of Indonesia, Ecuador, Panama, members of the Royal House of Saudi Arabia, and I've said something like, in this hand, I have millions of dollars for you and your friends if you play our game. In this hand, I have a gun in case you decide not to. Now, my words were more diplomatic than that, but that was the message. I was an economic hitman. And we economic hitmen have created a new global economy, really, a form of capitalism that I call predatory capitalism.
And they send these economic hitmen to poor countries like, say, for example, like Cambodia. And they'll tell the Cambodian government, we'll give you $2 billion that they will print out of thin air. This money has no value. They just print it out of thin air. And they tell the Cambodian government, we're going to give you $2 billion for your infrastructure. And over a period of 10 years, you'll pay us back the $2 billion and your infrastructure will, blossom. And if you default on this payment, we control Cambodia, all of it. We own it. And then that government makes a deal with the IMF, right? And the IMF sees to it that they will never be able to pay back that money that they printed out of thin air. And then they control Cambodia, fully owned by the Rothschilds now. Brazil, too. The place where you said this guy might be planting seeds, he may not know it, but the land itself may be controlled by the Rothschilds. They have been doing this forever. Look this stuff up, guys, and this is how they have been able to physically control the entire earth. We think that America is owned by the people. That's a joke. It's owned by the Rothschilds. We're indebted to them, I think 200 trillion now or something.
I was just wondering if you've heard of Nasara.
I'm aware of it.
It relates.
Yeah. So I know what you're talking about, Lotus. I'm just not sure of what it stands for, but it's associated with the whole QAnon thing. The whole the QAnon thing. What is that? That Saint Germain, the Nasara thing is connected to the Saint Germain. Who is Saint Germain? Saint Germain is Thoth, right?
Yeah.
So this is literally the Galactic Federation, the Thothian Anunnaki, the secret space station that is controlling David Wilcock and Corey Good, and the U.S. government, all in cahoots, playing this game with all of us. Do we really think that they are doing all this for the people of the world? That the Nasara thing, they're going to start distributing money to the people? Money, the money that you created isn't backed up by anything, guys. The whole world knows this. Russia and China have been backing up their currency for about 10 years right now. Russia has mined more gold in the last decade than humanity has by itself. Why? Not Russia, I'm sorry, China. Why is China doing this?
Well, Donald Trump may have wanted to co-opt Russia for containing China, but the continued sanctions on Russia have only pushed it closer to China. And in a double blow for Washington, its trade war with Beijing has further brought Russia and China closer as they seek to forge deeper economic ties. Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping met in Moscow to decide, among other things, how to defang America's chosen weapon, the dollar. Looks like they're dumping it. Here's a report.
From pancake diplomacy last year to panda diplomacy this year. By the time the Putin-Xi talks concluded in Moscow, China and Russia had taken another step closer towards dumping the dollar and agreed to trade in their respective national currencies. the Russian ruble and the Chinese yuan.
China it knows that the U.S. currency is worthless completely. The Chinese own a lot of worthless U.S. reserve notes. They asked the Americans to take their bullshit back and give them gold. The Americans said, no, we can't do this. Why? Because the Americans have no gold.
Is there any gold in Fort Knox? Now, the question sounds like a joke, sort of like the one about who's buried in Grant's tomb. But suddenly, it's a very serious question that's become a part of the major national financial reform debate. Not surprisingly, the Federal Reserve has been resistant to an audit of its money printing and money lending activities, even as the idea of an audit has become more popular on both sides of the aisle and in both houses of Congress. More surprisingly, though, they've also been resistant to a simple audit of their gold supplies at Fort Knox and in the New York Fed's vaults. Why? Is there less gold there than there is supposed to be? Has the United States government sold off more of its gold since going off the gold standard than we were led to believe?
Right? So what did the Chinese do? They went to Australia, who actually think that the U.S. currency is still worth something, and they gave them this fictitious U.S. reserve notes to buy their gold mines. And then they extracted the Australian gold and backed up their currency with it. You see, the Chinese are brilliant, right?
Proof of secret manipulation of gold prices is leaked by the media organization WikiLeaks. On February 8, 2010, it releases a cable sent from the U.S. Embassy in Beijing. The Chinese make a stunning discovery. The U.S. has been covertly weakening the value of gold to discourage other countries from buying it, instead of investing in U.S. dollars, the world's reserve currency. The Chinese mount a counterattack by secretly buying up lots of gold and encouraging other countries to do the same.
This is one of the WikiLeaks cables sent from the U.S. State Department in Beijing to the State Department in Washington. It shows that the Chinese government knows all about the United States and Western central banks suppressing the gold price to support the dollar and gain advantage over developing countries.
So this is what's happening in the world. This is actually what's unfolding right now. So when they come at us with this nurse gut thing or whatever, I can't pronounce it, and they're trying to convince us that the U.S. dollar actually is worth something in the minds of the Russians and the Chinese, we should laugh at that. We should completely laugh at that. I agree. People don't know that's why they go for this kind of crap. So this is how the Thothi and Anunnaki think, and I'm not over-exaggerating in the least bit here. Every country that you see has been brought to its present state by the Anunnaki and the Illuminati. Every single major country that you see for the big showdown when the stargates opened, everyone was in position, okay? None of this is evolution. We're all being tricked, and we're constantly being tricked. And anyone here who believes in Trump, I don't even understand how a man like Trump can come and mess up the Anunnaki's plan that's been literally in progress for millions of years to take over the halls of Amenti. How is someone like Trump going to do that? Trump instead, think of him like, okay, well, the Anunnaki invaded the United States to take over the Sarasota Stargate in Florida, okay? They wanted to position themselves 300 years ago. They came up with an idea to invade America for the future. They wanted America to be the military capital. They wanted London to be the financial capital, and they wanted the Vatican to be the religious capital, okay? They were all positioned there on purpose. America wasn't invaded because pilgrims wanted land and they were trying to get away from the British and all that. That's all bullshit. In higher parts of government back there, it was motivated by the Thothi and Anunnaki to take over, literally to take over that one Stargate, the Sarasota Stargate, and to make sure that America becomes the military capital of the world in the future when the Stargates open. So everything you think you know about history is completely wrong. Literally, every single thing is completely wrong. And this is what I would like you guys to wake up to, because when you understand that, when you look at television, what you will see is actors. You won't see real human beings. You'll see people trying to fool you. When you understand that this has happened to you, you will understand that everyone is positioned there on purpose. Another thing that no one has taken in consideration is that we have these things called astral bodies, mental bodies, etheric bodies, but no one takes into consideration that the Anunnaki place implants in the astral bodies and mental bodies of our politicians. Not only do they have genetic access to them, but they're implanting them very heavily, because the souls that are in these politicians are them. They're the Anu Elohim souls. They're the Anunnaki souls, you see. So they implant them and everything, and it's a way of beings in these dimensions here, in these higher dimensions, literally using our politicians as puppets to create a show for angelic humanity that we've been fallen for forever. Okay, it's literally time to let it go. It's all a scam. Everything is a scam, because the reason why we even exist in this particular time is to reclaim the stargates. This is why the Palladorians time traveled, and when they time traveled, that event was called the Christos Realignment Mission. The Christos Realignment Mission was in progress for 550 million years, and it was aborted and it failed in our lifetimes in the year 2004. Okay, now we're on Plan B, which I'll talk about in the other meeting. But this is the seriousness of it. It's really about letting go of the news, letting go of what they tell you. When it comes to governments, military, banking, all those are Anunnaki models. They did not exist before the invasion. That is not how we lived, guys. We didn't live like that. That's not in our nature. Those are all Anunnaki models. That's how they live in their phantom matrix. Yeah.
Can I say something, Massimo?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say this. That's why it's so important to do plasma. I think that it's really, really important that everybody do it. And I don't know if anybody else, I don't know if they experienced when they was doing plasma, but what I felt like liquid heat, going in my body, and whatever it was doing, it was clearing out a lot of stuff. And from that point on, I've been really, really good, like really good. But I think it's just really important that we all, for the ones who didn't do plasma, I think there's even more benefits with plasma than we really think that it is. And that's all I wanted to say on that.
No, thank you for that, Ernie. Thank you for touching on that. Okay.